Welcome back to another episode of The Quest for Self. I'm your host, Allie. How many times have you been sitting at a hairdresser, just staring at all the hair being chopped off, feeling that little panic in your chest and thinking, wait, this isn't what I wanted. But you're too scared to say something. So instead, you stay silent. You walk out paying a ridiculous amount of money, hating your new look. Or maybe it's not the hairdresser. It's the restaurant where your food comes out wrong, but you say nothing and nibble at your plate. Or at work, when you know the answer in a meeting, but keep quiet because you're scared of being wrong. Why do we do this to ourselves? This episode is personal because I really want to talk about speaking up, the courage it takes, and why it's so important in situations that really matter. I mean, think about it. Have you ever held your tongue, even though part of you knew you should have spoken? That hesitation, that little voice warning you, it's familiar to all of us. Speaking up, it can feel really scary. It can feel awkward, even risky, and yet staying silent has an even bigger cost. Today, we're going to explore why we stay silent, the cost of that silence, the signs that tell us that we should speak up, and practical ways to do it without losing our composure or our integrity. So let's dive in. We stay silent for a lot of reasons, and most of them feel completely valid in the moment. First, there's the fear of judgment or conflict. Most of the time, we don't say something because we think it's going to start a fight, or that we'll be judged as too sensitive or overreacting. I think back to middle school, high school. I wasn't the person raising my hand or asking questions because I was scared of being judged. I was scared of being wrong. That fear sticks with you into adulthood. Even in the workplace, imposter syndrome can creep in. What if I sound stupid? What if they realize I don't belong here? That fear silences so many brilliant voices. Then we've got wanting to keep the peace. Sometimes we stay silent just to maintain peace. I remember being on a trip recently, and there were things that were really bothering me, but I swallowed it all down. I didn't want to create tension or be that person. I chose silence instead. And while it felt easier in the moment, I realized later how much energy I had lost just carrying that inside. Then we've got self-doubt. Other times, we don't speak because we just don't believe it matters. It won't make a difference, we tell ourselves, or I won't say the right thing anyway. Maybe we were raised in environments where our ideas weren't listened to, or worse, they were dismissed. That teaches us that our voice isn't valuable, but it absolutely is. Then we've got social conditioning, and yes, especially for women. Society trains us to shrink, to stay quiet, to not take up too much space. We're told that speaking up might make us too much or too difficult. But staying silent just reinforces the patterns we don't want to accept. So, what really happens when we stay silent? The cost? Well, it's bigger than we actually realize. Take a dinner I went to with friends recently. We were at this very Instagrammable spot. and not all of us wanted to have a full dinner. One friend just wanted water, two others just wanted a drink, and a couple of us ended up ordering food because we were hungry. Sounds normal, right? Except the waitress clearly cared way too much about what we were ordering. Her glares, her attitude, it was so uncomfortable. Most people would just sit there and take it. But something in me said, I am not tolerating this. So I spoke up. Maybe not in the best way, but she got the message. When she came over, I addressed her behavior respectfully and calmly. I explained how it made us feel. And you know what happened? She apologized. She explained she was stressed. She offered to cover drinks for the table. She apologized a million times and even offered to comp us dessert. I politely declined, but that simple act of speaking up transformed a frustrating situation into one of clarity and resolution. Now, imagine if I hadn't said anything. I would have left frustrated, angry, and powerless, thinking the place just had horrible service. That energy, frustration, resentment, well, it lingers. Silence lets negative patterns continue. Whether it's a rude waitress, a disrespectful coworker, or a friend crossing a boundary. And it's not just about small things. Silence in relationships can build into resentment. Silence at work can mean missing opportunities or letting someone else take credit for your ideas. Silence in friendships can mean allowing patterns that drain us to continue. So I want you to pause and reflect. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time I stayed silent and walked away heavier than I should have? So, how do we know when speaking up is necessary? Well, here are a few signs that have helped me, and I really hope they help you too. Number 1, your values are being crossed or disrespected. If someone's behavior violates your core sense of respect, don't stay quiet. That waitress crossing my values of respect and civility? No, speaking up was necessary to defend my boundaries. I wasn't doing it for anyone else, but for myself. And that is something I am proud of. Number 2, staying silent could hurt someone or someone else, then that's your cue that you have to speak up. This goes beyond personal annoyance. If silence might allow someone to be misrepresented, treated unfairly, or even harmed, it becomes essential to speak. For example, if a colleague is being blamed for something they didn't do, or a friend is being unfairly judged, your voice can prevent damage. Thirdly, your voice could create clarity, prevent a misunderstanding, or foster growth. Speaking up isn't always about being confrontational. It's about integrity. Ask yourself, is this about ego or is this about truth? About respect? If it's integrity, your voice matters. So here's a quick trick to remember. The 3 C's: conflict, clarity, core values. If silence is fueling conflict, blocking clarity, or betraying your core values, that's your cue to speak up. But how can we speak up effectively? Because let's be honest, speaking up isn't always easy. But there are ways to do it that make it constructive and safe. Well, number 1, focus on your perspective, not blame. Instead of, "You're so rude," try, "I felt disrespected when that happened." Use I statements. This communicates impact without escalating conflict. Third, choose timing wisely. Public versus private. Emotional versus calm. I've made mistakes in the moment, like once joking about someone being on their period when they were being really hostile. Not my finest moment, but timing and tone are everything. Practice self-compassion. Speaking up is brave, even if the outcome isn't perfect. Applaud yourself for the courage, not the results. Prepare emotionally. Take a deep breath. Pause, or even write down your thoughts before speaking. This keeps your intentions clear. One thing that's helped me is role-playing in my head. If I stay silent, how will I feel in an hour, in a week? If I speak up, what could shift? Usually, that perspective makes the decision even clearer. So let's wrap this up. Speaking up is a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it becomes. This week, I challenge you to notice one small moment where you can speak up. Maybe at the salon, at a dinner, or at work. Even a tiny step matters. And if you do, send me a message or a DM. I'd love to hear your wins. Remember, whether it's a haircut, a meal, a meeting, or a friendship, your voice matters. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect outcome. Your energy, your peace, and your integrity depend on it. Your voice, well, it's not just a sound. It's a boundary. Your energy, your truth. And every time you choose to use it, you're rewriting the story of who you are. Because every time you choose to speak up, you're not just using your voice, you're shaping the strongest version of yourself. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Quest for Self. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, like, follow, subscribe, comment, and share. It would mean the world. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media, The Quest for Self.